Hi everyone, this is Dominik in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Hi, I'm Françoise Lamotte here in Switzerland. Our podcast, The Digital Edge, brings our perspectives on the digital revolution with a cutting edge angle. Today, we are discussing the evolving leadership roles for digital transformation. So, Dominic, digital transformation has been going on for over 20 years. What have you seen in terms of the evolution of the roles of people leading digital transformation?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and it's one that really caught my eye recently with the introduction of a new chief leadership role in the CAIO, right? So there's a
What
talk,
does
or
it
there,
mean, a CAIO?
yeah, just gonna say, the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer.
Okay.
Right, so we have like this thing with AI blooming right now, right, in these early stages that we have. We went in the last 20 years at least that I'm aware of. We went through CIOs, we went through CTOs, we then later added a CDO, and now we have a CAIO. Okay, so this is a recap real quick what they are. We got the Chief Technology Officer, we have the Chief Information Officer, we have a Chief Data Officer, and
Okay.
now again the Chief AI Officer.
I
So
thought that CDO meant Chief Digital Officer, which was another one too.
oh, there you go. I even forgot about that one. Oh my god, now we're up to 5. Okay, so what do we do with all this stuff, right? Um, I think it's a very fascinating evolution, right? And what it kind of highlights is the the focus area that technology is evolving into, right? And again, I think the chief AI officer right now is that perfect example of where the industry and really the world is moving towards in digital transformation focus areas. And so here we have another role, but I think it's a little bit of a tricky situation, right? Maybe you have large organizations where you say, hey, we have such high levels of complexity where we need to have these different roles, and you start having these high level leadership roles in an organization, which sounds pretty good because you can, like, okay, have somebody deal with that complex topic and that complex topic and that one over there as well. But the bottom line, what I'm concerned about is if you don't have these digital transformation roles lead into a single role, I think we're going to have challenges by breaking up budgets into different areas of digital transformation, and there almost being competition amongst these organizations as they evolve, right? And so that's my concern, right, on the um, larger organizations. For small companies, I think you're probably going to have overkill if you have too many people working on similar topics, right? And so I think there's a consideration in the size of the organization whether you need to have one role or if it truly warrants to have multiples of these roles. What do you think? Like when you think about these many titles that we now
Yes.
have in the space?
I think indeed there's been a very important evolution, and I think what you said is correct. It's following the waves of latest technology, focus of the organizations, and even sometimes compliance. I'm thinking the role of data officer, data protection is a role that is needed also because the regulation has evolved, and you need someone in charge to make sure that this is compliant. And actually, this role sometimes even reports to compliance or even the CEO of the organization. So that role is maybe a bit aside. I think the what I've seen in terms of evolution, and to your point, is really where those roles sit in the organization. I feel that very early on, maybe 20 years ago, the chief digital officer for me was a role very close to the business. where, the main challenge was the evolution of the business model, how to integrate internet with physical sales force, for example, or, how to review the processes. I mean, a lot of that had to be done with the business model, new products online, new distribution channels, etc.
Mhm.
And then I think once those new business models were more or less defined, I felt the role of chief digital officer moved to IT, because it was about execution, bringing new technologies, sunsetting the legacy system. So that was a shift
Sustain
from
the
the business,
operations. Yeah, yeah.
to IT and operations. And then now we have those new roles, and I agree with you. I think the point is to make sure that they are not isolated initiatives; they fit in the overall picture. And maybe the question would be, where in the organization should those roles sit, with IT or with the business or even somewhere else? And
Right.
that I don't have the answer yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is something that's really organization dependent, right? And I think there might even be an industry consideration as well, right? You mentioned the point about compliance earlier, right? I think for a large organization that is in a highly regulated environment, perhaps, be it in the finance space or the healthcare space, right? I think it could warrant to have specialized roles that deal with a segment of digital capabilities or what have you. But what I think is then important, right, as you look at these roles, is to be super clear about the distinction of responsibility, right? I think my concern is that you start having a lot of overlap in the responsibilities, right? And rather than clearly segmenting out of like, hey, that role deals with this topic, this role deals with this topic, and that third role deals with that topic, right? When it starts overlapping, then I think it could lead to conflict and maybe less than ideal execution, also, right? Because then there's the vying for budgets and resources and priorities, which, if you have to deliver in the same space, can get tricky, as we know, right? That every function can meet its objectives, and that's why I think if they if these capabilities can report to a single leader that's attached to the CEO, I think it might be more productive than having them directly report to the CEO, which I think would cause more complication rather than having it to report to a single chief role reporting to the chief executive.
Mhm. I think, whether it's a chief digital or chief data or chief AI officer, all those functions are very much transversal. They cut across the organization. So I think,
Exactly. Yeah.
to avoid, some bias, or, just working for IT or just for operation or just for marketing, I think the higher they can be positioned in the organization is better. But I think those roles, I think they should also, as much as possible, go in a vertical way to maybe the executive committee. So, maybe have a seat at the table, or at least participate regularly at the higher level of the organization, but even up to the board, and making sure that those competencies are also present at the board level, because these are strategic areas and they should not be ignored, or not understood well at the board level. So I think those roles, they really need to be really high up in the organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? Because these areas do warrant a significant level of specialization, and a lot of business considerations right now. Again, picking on AI because it's the hot topic of the day, right? That you have someone who has the adequate um, focus to bring concerns on that topic to executive leadership, to a board, and explain that, right? Whereas if that's too far away from executive leadership, right, then it gets diluted amongst many other topics, right? And I think I really like that point about being close in proximity and with a focus area that expert insights can also be provided at the right level.
I think we mentioned it before, but the fact that AI is a fad, that everyone, whatever the role, whatever the generation, is using ChatGPT. I mean, this is bringing a lot of attention to the topic. Whereas maybe, data was more like, hidden
It's boring currently.
Exactly. So I think that, I would suggest that, any executive committee, any board today has AI on the agenda at some point. So I think that's an opportunity to maybe reshape those roles, reorganize in the most effective way to bring those issues at the right level, but also, as you said, to work across the organization and not in silo, because those topics, they data is everywhere, AI is everywhere, digital is everywhere, so it can't be restricted to only one area.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, I think in conclusion, I would say that exactly this, right? This unified approach to solving challenges for the business needs to be at the forefront, and structuring these senior leadership roles needs to go in unison with that the organization and the customers can be best supported, rather than being diluted across multiple areas and making it more difficult to engage and deliver.
Yeah, and I think, as we started just recognizing that the roles have evolved quite a bit over the past 20 years, I think this is going to continue. That, today it's chief AI, and maybe tomorrow it will be chief quantum officer. I don't know. But I think that's a good sign of vitality, that, the organization are understanding the challenges, the opportunities, and are acting on those. So I think this is very positive.
Agreed.
Thank you so much, Dominik, for the discussion today, and we'll see each other very soon.
Yes. See you next time. Thanks everybody for watching.
Okay, bye-bye.